Hello and welcome to you all. Today, in this episode 1, we would see the Constitution of India and why did India need a constitution, or rather, I would say, why did India needed a constitution by then. In this series, we are going to categorically look upon the Indian polity from a storyline perspective, and post that, we are going to discuss how this storyline can help you in your preparation. So, this series is somewhere making your polity section more interesting so that you can score better. Now, without a further delay, let's get started. Imagine this. It is 15th of August 1947. India has finally become independent. The British left, the national flag is flying, but there is a problem. Problem of India is free. But who will decide how India will be governed? Who will have the power? Who will make laws? What right will an ordinary citizen have? What happens to minorities? Who controls the state? And more important, the biggest question perhaps, can a country as diverse as India actually remain democratic? This is the question. The answer to all this would eventually be found in one document, the Constitution of India. But here is the fascinating part. The Constitution of India did not suddenly appear in 1950. Its story began much early. And that is what we are going to understand today. So, India before the Constitution, rather I would say India before 1950. Before 1950, India did not have its own constitution in the modern democratic sense. India was governed under the series of laws enacted under the British rule. The British gradually introduced representative institution, legislative council and provincial governance or governments, which you have actually read or have read in your history classes. For example, the Government of India Act 1930 was particularly important because it introduced provincial autonomy and became an important constitutional reference point for future Indian constitution. But there was a fundamental problem. These arrangements were created under British sovereignty. The Indian people were not ultimate authors of the political system. So the national movement increasingly demanded something much deeper. Not merely better government by the British, but a government designed and authorized by the Indians themselves. So from subject to citizen. And this is where the idea of Constitutional Assembly becomes important. Now, the big question: who should write the Constitution? What about it? Think about a democracy for a moment. If somebody else writes the rules under which you will be governed, are you truly self-governing? This was the philosophical foundation behind the demand of Constitution Assembly. The idea was simple. The people should have representatives who would determine the constitutional framework of free India. And the demand developed gradually during the development of freedom struggle. Now, in 1930, a Constitutional Assembly was formed, purposed in India's political discourse, and the Congress adopted the demand soon after. The Constitutional Assembly debated themselves, record the evolution of this demand and its connection with principles of self-determination. Now, you have to understand that independence is not equal to constitutional self-government, because political independence somewhere answers who rules us. A constitutional answer: how will power be exercised, limited and legitimized? This is the distinction. The next question which soon arose, that why couldn't India just continue with British law? The idea was simple, because India was facing a completely new political reality. A clear picture. India was simply replacing one government with another. It was trying to transform colony with republic. Subjects, as we have already seen, subjects with citizen. Imperial authority with popular sovereignty. And most importantly, unequal legal status with equality before law. In multiple sense, to protect diversity and to build nation. That the tension will return again and again in this series, because federalism, fundamental rights, minority protection, be it emergency provision, reservation, all these ideas, the reflection of subject to citizen, this would be seen in the categorical next episodes. But for now, how do you hold together an extraordinarily diverse society while protecting individual liberty? Welcome to the Cabinet Mission of 1946. After the Second World War, Britain was under enormous political and economic pressure to resolve the Indian constitutional question. The British Labour government accepted the need for a constitutional process and a cabinet mission under the India that came in in 1946. The mission consisted of Lord Lawrence, Sir Stafford Cripps, and A.V. Alexander. Its plan was simple. A plan of May 16, 1946 proposed the creation of Constitutional Assembly. Now, the bigger question, was the Constitutional Assembly really representative? How was the Constitutional Assembly formed? This was a intellectual honesty, but I would say this is where we need a intellectual honesty. The Constitution Assembly perfectly democrated by the today's standard? The answer is no. It was not elected through universal adult suffrage. We know women were underrepresented. Large section of population did not directly elect in the members, and the Muslim League initially boycotted its proceedings. Partition further transformed its composition. So why is the Constitution still considered a remarkable democratic achievement? Because again, its representation is not only measured of constitution making. The assembly became a forum of intense debate. It walked through committees, it received proposal, petitions, members disagreed sharply. The debate of fundamental rights, minority safeguards, federalism, executive power, the judiciary, language, citizenship, and what not. And the debates were not merely drafting legal clauses. That was what kind of India should we going to establish, or it should exist today. So, the first day of Constitution Assembly, or I would say on 9th December of 1946, the Constitutional Assembly met for the first time in New Delhi in what was then the Constitution Hall and now associated with the Central Hall of Parliament House. 207 members were present on the first day, and this was, or I would say this is where the Constitution of India story really begins. The assembly did not immediately start writing hundreds of articles. First, it had to answer a much more fundamental question. What should the Constitution of India seek to achieve? The answer was simple. The answer was in objective resolution, or I would say the objective resolution. Let's move on to 13 December 1946. Honorable Jawaharlal Nehru moved the objective resolution. This is one of the most important moments in the making of constitution. You would be wondering why. Because before writing the rules, the assembly tried to define the purpose of the constitution project. The resolution emphasized India as a independent-minded, sovereign republic and spoke of justice, equality, freedom, safeguard for minorities and disadvantaged groups, territorial integrity, and India's contribution to world peace. And welcome to this unique challenges where maintaining all this idea into one book was quite a tough work. But the assembly eventually adopted the resolution on 22nd of January 1947. So the constitution somewhere becomes simple, but not as simple. The idea was, let's write some laws. But it began with, what kind of political society do we want to create? And again, that is why the objective resolution is important for us, because it somewhere addresses the unique challenges the India had. Now, as we have seen that there were multiple challenges, but the objective resolution somewhere addressed the problems like democracy, rights, diversity, national unity, and social transformation. Now the important part. Who actually made the constitution, or the constitution was written by one person? This is another myth we need to correct. We often hear Dr. B.R. Ambedkar wrote the constitution. The same statement is too simplistic. Dr. Ambedkar played an enormous role as a chairman of drafting committee. But constitution making was a collective process. The assembly created enormous committee. For example, Union Power Committee was headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Provincial Committee or Constitutional Committee was headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights, Minority, Tribal and Excluded Areas were again headed by Sardar Patel. But the most important committee among all was Drafting Committee, which was headed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And Rajendra Prasad served as the President of Constituent Assembly. There was a crucial role of B.N. Rao sir also, the constitutional advisor, who drafted the constitution based on committee's work before it went through further scrutiny by the drafting committee. So remember one thing, Dr. Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. He was not the sole authority of the constitution. Now, the constitution was built through debate. The answer to the question, how was the constitution actually made? The constitution was the debate. It was built through debate. The assembly did not sit for few months and produce constitution. It worked for almost 3 years. According to the parliament's account, it took around 2 years, 11 months and 17 days. Held 11 long sessions, sat for 165 days. Others reconstructed count the plenary proceedings slightly differently depending on what it included. But the most important point is not merely the numbers presented here. It is the method. The assembly discussed, debate, disagreed, amended, reconsidered and adopted. This is the constitutional idea of deliberate democracy. And this is perhaps one of the most important lessons we can actually get, that a constitution is not merely a legal text. It is produced, or it is a product of political negotiation, social compromise and institutional design. Now, the question, Was the constitution a compromise? Because India has to somewhere address one at large question. It had to somewhere bargain between individual liberty and social order, to somewhere establish the democracy. Two, it somewhere had to protect individual right. At the same time, it needed to have the state powers. Three, it somewhere wanted to manage diversity, yet the different communities, region and identities needed constitutional accommodation. Fourth, it somewhere wanted to build a union with a transformed society. The constitution was expected not merely to preserve the society but to transform it from somewhere to equality, to social justice, political representation, to abolition of untouchability, protection of vulnerable communities. And these were not the administrative question. These were questions about the future of Indian society. And that is what we are going to see in the future aspects or the future lectures. So, why did India needed the constitution in general? You have the answer in front of you. The Indian constitution was a nation building project. It has simultaneous objective, I would say 3 simultaneous objectives: to limit the power, to protect the liberty, and to build a united and just society with an established democracy, limit states' power, protect rights, manage diversity and transform society again. And that is why constitution is much more than the book of article. It is framework which India attempted to answer the fundamental question: how can a deep diversity and unequal society become a democratic republic while preserving both liberty and unity is the major debate now. And that we are going to see in the next few episodes, where we categorically decode each article of the constitution and make it simpler for you, so as to you can link those articles with the actual lawmakers and answer accordingly. That's all for today. See you in the next episode.